I don't know, I'm excited. It's a Friday morning. Good morning to you and thank you for joining us on a bright, not gloomy Friday morning.
Yes, indeed.
Here in the city of Lagos, Nigeria.
Yes, it's Breakfast Central on News Central with Olisa and Felicity. We are so delighted to be with you once again as we get ready for our weekend. And I think I'm already in the mood today.
Thank God it's Friday.
Oh, I'm betting.
The spirit is already started, but we have to get done with the show first. You can join the conversation and let us know where you're watching from using the hashtag NC Breakfast Central. Follow us at News Central TV and head to our website for more. That's www.newscentral.africa. You can also download the News Central TV mobile app. Just head to your Play Store or iOS.
Well, we'll first keep you up to date with stories you may have missed in the news. And yes, we'll also go straight to the morning tea where we look at the papers of the front and back pages from across different parts of Africa. But today, we will be bringing you up to speed the latest from the presidential elections in the Republic of Congo. We'll also have a guest to talk about the Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, which is a hormonal problem that affects women during their childbearing years.
But first, stories from last night. The African Union has said African countries should continue to use AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. This echoes the position of the World Health Organization, WHO, which said the shot's benefits outweighed its risk. The African Union's recommendation comes after more than a dozen European countries suspended use of the AstraZeneca vaccine amid concerns over the risk of blood clots.
But the director of the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, John Ikengasong, told the news conference yesterday that the benefits still outweigh the risks and countries should move towards it. He also added that any adverse reactions should be monitored and reported.
The vaccination campaign. After a serious discussion and review of the evidence that were reported, Africa CDC concluded that the benefits accruing from the AstraZeneca vaccines continue to outweigh any risk possible, and accordingly, we recommend the following to member states. And our statement is probably out now or will be out in French and English in the coming hours. First of all, the EU member states are recommended to continue to use and roll out the AstraZeneca vaccine as part of their vaccination campaign. And the EU member states, that as they do this, continue to ensure that there's routine monitoring, reporting, and evaluation of adverse events following immunization, what is commonly abbreviated as AEFI during the immunization. And that any policy decisions pertaining to the vaccination rollout should be based on evidence and thorough regulatory review processes and not based on anything that is subjective. And that Africa CDC will continue to monitor the adverse events following immunization with all the vaccines and not just the AstraZeneca vaccine, and provide evidence-based recommendations as the situation evolves.
All right, and that's John Ikengasong, the director for Africa Center for Disease Control, saying that the benefits outweighs the risk of using the COVID-19
Yes, indeed.
vaccine.
I would take it, to be honest, because a lot of research was put into it. And if you look at the statistics, you have over 17 million people that have already received the vaccine. And of that number, you have like 40. Even polio vaccination, you have people who had allergic reactions and stuff like that. So it's a risk worth taking at the end of the day, because I do know that researchers and scientists would not want to mar their name. And let's not forget the politics that's also part of the conversation. They had issues with the EU. Some persons are saying there is indeed some politics in this. We cannot confirm that, but it is something worth thinking about.
Yesterday it was confirmed the European Medicines Associations also give a go-ahead that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is still good and they will continue to roll out. So those countries who suspended it, like Germany, will have to continue today.
Let's see what happens with that. Let's go to Tanzania now. Yesterday we were talking about the death of the president, Magufuli, and a lot of outpouring of condolences. Today, we know that the vice president, Samia Hassan, is about to be sworn in to take over as president today, following the death of Magufuli. The swearing-in ceremony at the State House in Dar es Salaam.
Well, the Tanzanian constitution requires that the vice president takes over for the remaining term if the sitting president dies, or resigns or is indisposed, which clearly is now the case. Now she will be the 6th president of Tanzania and the second from the country's semi-autonomous islands of Zanzibar.
Recall that the opposition yesterday called for Vice President Samia Hassan to be sworn in immediately following the death of President Magufuli. All
right, so I think that the ceremony is starting right about now, East African time, I think about 10:05, 10:06 there about this morning. We'll see if we can patch through to one of our East African contributors to get the latest on the swearing in of, well, another African First Lady.
I'm so proud. It's Friday, so I'm allowed to do a little, you know, a little.
Unfortunate circumstances.
Well, however you look at it, it's of no fault of hers, and it is. Some people say it is what has been destined. She did not go in thinking that the president will go away.
All right, so let's come down to Nigeria, West Africa, where we'll look at proceedings there. Well, parents of the 39 kidnapped students of the Federal College of Forestry and Mechanization in the northwestern state of Kaduna have held a peaceful protest to demand the unconditional release of their wards.
The parents are calling on the state government to do everything possible to rescue the students. The protesters barricaded all major roads leading to the school as they held placards and chanted slogans at the main entrance of the institution. They were also joined by fellow students as they called for an end to banditry and a safe return of those kidnapped. That's some of the stories from last night that we thought you might be interested in, you know, catching up with. We're heading out to the papers.
Right then, so it's all about the morning tea this morning. Felicity, I think it's only fair if we start in Nigeria, starting on the home front with the Nation in Nigeria, West Africa. So let's see what they have for us this morning on the Nation as we look at this, the paper. Well, it says, insecurity, IGP accuses states of non-cooperation. It says, federal government only abnormal approach can end insecurity. NSA pushes for traditional rulers' involvement.
Okay, let's see the front page. It says changing the money. That's the big one there. Something at the top that you might be interested in. It's not very clear, so I'll just take it for you. House of Representatives passes resolution authorizing Central Bank of Liberia to print new families of banknotes to the tune of 48.7 billion. That's a whole lot of money.
Okay, so still also on the top there of the front page in Liberia, Liberia National Police invites Opposition Unity Party National Secretary General for operations for questioning over Facebook posts. And they've said there, person of interest.
You know, these days I tell people, hey, the internet, we seem to forget, in the heat of the moment, we forget that the internet does not forget. Some people will Trump all through his tenure, people go back to previous tweets, dig it out, and then if you are a civil servant and you work for the government, I mean, common sense dictates that you have some restraint in what you do on social media.
But it also goes back to the, you know, for free speech. The argument of free speech.
I did not say anything.
All right, let's go straight to East Africa. We can go to the Daily Nation. Obviously, one of the biggest news from yesterday, the death of John Magufuli, features on the front page of the Daily Nation in Kenya and says, end of an era, Tanzania plunged into mourning following death of the, quote, bulldozer. Magufuli, the legacy, it says.
There's a lot of questions there. What's next? His last moments, his friends, 10 things he banned. Well, there's a lot of controversy still over the schoolgirls thingy, but he's gone now.
It's an interesting front page because Daily Nation is in Kenya, and they're taking the biggest story in East Africa, and just respect them.
They are neighbors. We're all neighbors. It's one big
Instead
family.
of having the mishmash, I always talk about Nigerian papers always so there's so much, then you're asking which one.
Leave our papers alone.
All right.
They do a good job.
Yeah, they do, obviously. They do. All right, looks like that's the only one we've got in East Africa. Let's go down south of the continent, and we'll start with the Sowetan this morning in South Africa. Let's go to the south, and there's a picture there of Jacob Zuma and, his successor, talking about current President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Okay, Daily News is up next. We have fears grow for Zim opposition. That's for you, Daily News. That's it on your screen. We also have clearing the air, no breaking at her ZAC offices. You might want to catch up on that one. And then they seem to be celebrating something. It's fair enough to just say congratulations to the paper, celebrating 10 more years of telling it like it is.
Let's go back to South Africa with the Sowetan and take the story at the bottom there, because apart from the political ones you had at the top, it says a township ruled by fear. Court case exposes how Boko Haram, yes, a gang best known for running extortion ring in Mamelodi area, has allegedly hijacked a housing project and forced residents to pay rent. NP estimates Shwane has lost about 12 million rand in the 3 years since thugs took over. So we've been following that story about the group called...
that's actually a really big one.
Boko Haram, but not anyway religiously related, but more like a gang problem in the Mamelodi area.
Well,
so that's the town by fear.
We talked about this the other day, and I was saying, and now we have a new phrase. We say banditry, we say kidnappers.
Where does a Southern African, like a country like South Africa, then relates, gangry, or what they call it, gangs.
Well, I said there is a different kind of Boko Haram, but at the end of the day, to survive, yes, there is a purpose. They have to be financed, so they might explore any means. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's a likely scenario.
And we're not sure if the group called themselves that, but that's what the papers and the media have called them. They've called them Boko Haram, and it's in South Africa. So you might see it and say, oh, is Boko Haram in South Africa?
Well,
no.
Boko Haram is Boko Haram.
Okay. All right, then. Do we have any more papers to run through this morning?
I don't know. Have we taken the Chronicle?
No, I think we can go to the Daily Times in Malawi, or another paper in the south of the continent. So Malawi, Daily Times, and they've also gone for Magufuli. You're talking about Tanzania mourns Magufuli and says, foreigners in their own land. So there you have it on the front page of the Daily Times in Malawi. Some of the papers we'll run through for you this morning.
Yes, indeed.
Right then, a quick breather will do for us right here on Breakfast Central with Lisa and Felicity. We'll still try and get our man in East Africa, talking about Abdul Noor, to give us the latest on the swearing in of the now former vice president to become president now.
Pink is crossed that the network will be nicer to us today. We don't want a repeat of what happened.
Hopefully. All right, do stay with us. We'll be right back.
Recorded interview, so it's fair enough.
Now, Congo, also known as Congo Brazzaville, is experimenting with its voting process and doing something that had never been done before, with security forces voting ahead of the presidential elections scheduled for the 21st of March 2021. Now, 12,000 soldiers and police officers have cast their vote ahead of the citizens, with the Election Commission saying the move is an attempt to free up security forces and allow them focus on securing polling stations. But opposition groups have criticized the move, seeing it as further risk of ballot fraud that will give President Denis Sassou Nguesso a head start in the election. But Bertrand Minier of the Fed Up movement said that the voters list did not distinguish members of the military from civilians. He feared that the military personnel might vote twice, given that their names are on both civilian and military lists. Now, to give us a better perspective of this issue, as well as updates on preparations for Sunday's vote, We're joined by Ni Akwete, who is an African relations campaigner, founder of the Democracy and Conflict Research Institute, Accra, and former executive director of Africa Action and lecturer of African Relations of the George Washington University in the USA. Welcome to Breakfast Central, Ni.
Thank you so very much, my brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, welcome to the program. Now, the military voting ahead didn't come as a surprise to some citizens in the country as it was announced in January, but it's the first of its kind. What are your sources telling you about this exercise in Congo?
As your excellent laid out, there is a lot of suspicion about it. I share that suspicion because this particular president, Denis Sassou Nguesso, has a long track record. He has actually governed the country, led the country for 36 years now in 2 breaks. And from my point of view as a democracy activist, where I think democracy is so important and needed in every one of our 55 countries on the continent, he has failed a number of tests. He has done a number of things that tell me that he manipulates the electoral system. So I'm very suspicious of having the security forces vote early, as the opposition forces have said. But the point is, his track record is bad. If another country and another leader was doing it, we could look at the details. But this president, Sassou Nguesso in DRC, has a very undemocratic record.
All right, Ni. The opposition have expressed fear that the approach is a tactic, if you may put it that way, to swing the outcome of the exercise to favor the incumbent president. What do you know about this?
Please repeat the question. I got the lead up. I missed
the opposition are now saying that this looks like it might be a tactic to swing the outcome of the exercise in favor of the incumbent president. Would you agree with such assertions?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. It has every sign, because this is a president who has shown that he wants to remain in power by hook or by crook. He governed the country for about 15 years. In 1992, in the first multi-party elections, he lost, and he was off the scene. He was away as a former president for 5 years. He came back in after a war, after a civil war, and he took power again. And since then, there have been elections, quote-unquote elections, where funny things have been done. For one thing, they removed the age limit. The age limit had been 70 years. If you are over 70, you can no longer be president. He got that removed so that he is now currently actually 77 years. And there was 2-term limits. He got that removed also. So even since he came back after the multi-party elections and his war, this will be a 4th time he is running. The last time that an election was held in 2016, the 2 people who ran against him and claimed that they won, he got them jailed. One of them is still in jail. So again, his track record says to me that people should really be suspicious. You also mentioned the opposition, but it's not just the opposition. The Bishops' Conference in Congo, Brazzaville, the Bishops' Conference just issued a letter saying that they do not think that the elections are going to be fair. And one of the major opposition parties is actually boycotting the election.
All right, Ni Akwete, you just pointed out the age of the incumbent 77-year-old President Denis Sassou Nguesso. He's been in power, just like you pointed out, for some 36 years now. Now, he's one of the longest-serving leaders in Africa. Now, what are the chances of the opposition in this election? Do they have any?
Very little, but since it is a future event, just by the laws of probability, one should not say that something in the future is 100%, but there's or 0%. So we will see what happens. But frankly, if I were a betting man, I would not put any money on it. And I hope that in our conversation now, we will also bring in the powers that are supporting him, or singular, the one power supporting them, that is France. France is strongly behind them. And one of the other factors is that people in the Congo have always been poor, but since COVID-19 ruined the global economy and prices of, particularly of crude oil, plummeted because Congo produces a lot of crude oil, not as much as Nigeria does, but they do produce a significant amount. Prices of crude oil has fallen, so government income has fallen, so people are even poorer. The economy has been mismanaged as well.
All right, we're hearing about, perhaps a boycott from the likes of the Pan-African Union of Social Democracy, which is one of the opposition parties we hear. But just over 2.5 million people are registered to vote in an estimated population of 5 million for Congo. What has been the trend of voter, participation in previous years, and what are you expecting from this year's election in the country?
Well, the opposition and the bishops, and we also mentioned the security forces, those are special groups who have some protection. But if you are an ordinary Congolese person and you have had this president who has shown that he has no qualms about unleashing war on the country, it seems to me that when you are thinking of how you can hold on to your precarious living in the country, the better thing to do is to go cast a vote, because you will be afraid that if you did something that caught the eye of the security forces and the president people, you might get in trouble. So all of that is for me to say that it will not surprise me if some people vote, if they think that not voting will be seen as opposing the president. These are ordinary individuals and families. But I don't think you will see a large turnout. But of course, the bottom line of all this is the institutions, the government institutions, the Electoral Commission, they will come out and say how many people voted. And those numbers will be very questionable. So if they tell us, say, 60% voted or 80% voted, and then if they tell us the president got 90%, I am saying all those figures, I will have grave doubts about the issues coming out. Because when you have a president and a government that has shown it will do anything to stay in power, everything that comes out of them needed to be looked at. Every figure they issue needs to be looked at extremely skeptically. The one thing you can believe, which is not likely to happen, but if it does happen and we can believe it, is if it turns out that the opposition party that does run, if they tell us that it wins, we know that, okay, they could not suppress everybody, and that might be true. But anything that favors that president, we have to look at it very suspiciously. I will look at it very suspiciously.
All right. Thank you so much, Ni Akwete, African Relations campaigner and also African Relations lecturer at George Washington in the USA. Thank you very much for being right here on Breakfast Central on News Central.
Well, it's I actually liked you in that suit yesterday better than what you're wearing today. Anyways, that was an earlier conversation that we had.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Don't worry. Don't
you
worry.
look good anyhow. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was the conversation we had. We had some technical issues, so we had to do that conversation because of the importance of what Congo-Brazzaville was taking on. They're experimenting with election, military first, civilians later. What's your thought on it, actually? It would be nice if you can share it with us on social media, so we can even continue with that conversation. Should that be something that's replicated? Are the advantages more than the disadvantages?
Well, going back to the interview I had with Nia Kwete, who clearly very vast in these areas, he talked about the disadvantage now for the opposition with this, and that's why they're clamoring that it shouldn't be done ahead of the elections, which is supposed to hold this Sunday. But you know that the uniformed soldiers and police already started voting. So there'll be more on that come the election day right here on News Central.
Sunday is just next tomorrow, so stick with News Central. We'll bring you all the latest on that. Moving on to something else now, second impact conversation. That's living with Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, or PCOS. Now, this is a hormonal problem that affects women during their childbearing years. Health experts believe that many women have PCOS, but they don't know about it. In one particular study, up to 70% of women with PCOS hadn't been diagnosed.
Quite worrying numbers, you have to say. And women with PCOS experience hormonal imbalance and metabolism problems that may affect their overall health and appearance. Now, it is also a common and treatable cause of infertility. Now, between 5% and 10% of women between the ages of 15 and 44, or women in their reproductive years also have this PCOS. But there's a general position that it can happen at any age after puberty.
Women of all races and ethnicities are at risk of PCOS, and one's risk may be higher if they are overweight or if they have a mother, sister, or aunt with PCOS. So what causes it and what treatments are available for it? We'll be diving into that with our guest.
Amao, Seyi, good morning to you. Welcome back to the program. Now, Seyi, most people might not really know about this, but experts think that, this affects several, people, including for genetics, that I might play a role. What, do you say about this? You've experienced it yourself, so tell us all about it.
Okay, so I think when it comes to PCOS, the cause is still unknown. Most doctors would say that it's genetics that might lead to it. But then for me, for example, if I look in my own family history, I haven't, at least anyone that I know has been diagnosed with it. So I was one of the first people that I am aware of that was diagnosed. So it's still unknown. PCOS there are 4 types. So it can be induced by anything really. It's just basically a hormonal balance disorder. So,
okay. Some health challenges seem to have similar symptoms, and there is a possibility of a wrong diagnosis. You just said that there are about 4 of them. Walk us through some of the symptoms to, have an idea that you might be suffering from this.
Okay, so one of the symptoms that is clear off the bat is irregular periods. So if you've experienced either you're not seeing your period or you're seeing your period too much, so excessive bleeding, just basically doesn't follow what we've learned to be a normal period cycle. Some women go years without seeing their period, even after they've gotten their first period as a teenager. So that is one of the key things. Other things are hormonal acne. I think another thing is obviously infertility is something that comes up when you're ready to conceive, and after a year of actively trying, you're not able to conceive. So it's a possibility. And then another thing is if they do a scan, they might see like little cysts, even though some doctors call it cysts, but I've heard that it's actually follicles. They're actually little eggs that haven't developed. So it's like you just have lots of them not developing, just basically forming together. So, but not everyone has that. It can develop. I think other things that you notice is, high blood pressure and some other more advanced cases, like even degrading into diabetes or other heart problems.
Oh, well, Seyi, you've experienced this. So, but how were you diagnosed?
Okay, so I was saying like the first time I saw early signs of anything wrong with my reproductive system was actually when I was 18. I didn't see my period, I think, for a month. And I was like, I wasn't sexually active. I went to see a doctor. It was a horrible experience because she was assuming things. But By the time she found out nothing was wrong. Then my period came the next day. So after that, I just thought, okay, that's just my body giving me a break. And I think from 18 to 25, I would miss my period once a year. So it was after I turned 25 that I noticed that, I stopped. It was like I stopped losing weight as easily. I didn't change my diet. I was eating as normal. I was active, but then it became harder for me to lose weight. So from that, I started, obviously going into the obese, because right now I am actually obese by BMI standards. Most people see me and not think so, but I know. And then other symptoms started rearing its ugly head. So it wasn't until I was about, I think maybe even 29 or 30, that I got a proper diagnosis that this was PCOS. Prior to that, I would go to the hospital. They would say they don't know what was wrong. I also started experiencing excessive bleeding, which they would check as well, and not, every case of PCOS is different. So for me, what was most concerning that finally forced me to pay attention to all the signs I was seeing was the excessive bleeding. And it wasn't until I went to see one of my childhood doctors again, and he eventually confirmed that I had PCOS.
But this isn't a new condition now, is it? It's been around since 1721. Why do you think there hasn't been sort of enough awareness created around it?
I'll say because of the shame that surrounds it. When it comes to reproductive health, women, it's almost like you carry it on yourself. And if you're not able to conceive, most people will be like, oh, there's something wrong with you. And even I've met young 18-year-olds that their mothers wouldn't even want them to even talk about that diagnosis because they feel that would spoil their chances of being marriable in the future, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of, just stigma, fear, and shame that is around it. So that's why I would say maybe that because something is in the dark, you are not giving that much attention to. And it's not just here in Nigeria, it's actually worldwide. Everyone is still campaigning to have more funds and facilities invested into finding out more about this condition.
Well, Seyi, so how do we promote these conversations, especially on the African scene, the African continent, that young girls and women don't suffer for years without an idea of what's going on?
Okay, so I'll say it starts from secondary or before your child even gets into matures into an age where you're ready to get married. It starts from secondary school. For me, if I understood the importance of my period, when I started seeing irregularity, even certain things like I used to have an experience like cramps and bad symptoms, but I didn't think there was anything wrong. We were just told it's okay, it's your period, but it's not okay to experience certain levels of pain or even be going through scanty periods of bleeding. So I think it goes back to our education system. First of all, not only educating girls, also educating boys as well, in the sense that this is not something a woman should be ashamed of. If you notice anything, talk to people about it. I think it's just that fear of not being able to talk to people. So it's just creating an environment where women can have and men can have open conversations about what's going on. Doctors as well need to be educated because a lot of them, it's almost like that condition they don't want to deal with. So they have a one-stop solution to it. Oh, yeah, we'll give you birth control pills to control your period. And when you're ready to give birth, come back. And that is not the solution. I wish when I was younger, someone told me, okay, you possibly have an insulin problem. You need to live a certain kind of lifestyle, and then guided me. So I would have made more active choices in what I was eating and, how I was living basically, because those things, your lifestyle actually affects it or makes it worse in the long run. So I think education starts from, obviously secondary school and up until now.
Seyi, I agree completely with you on that. Early awareness, early information will go a long way to, making things easier for young women when they finally find out that they have these conditions. Let's talk about something that it's part of the inspiration, I believe, for your book, Bola Tito. It focuses on other issues, though, that also tend to be discussed in hushed tones. Why did you pick infertility as the thing to tackle? Does it have to do with your condition or it is the environment?
Okay, so for me, why I decided, I mean, it's a real condition I'm living with. And like I said, I had noticed all these things, but I didn't get diagnosed properly until I got married. So definitely, this is my 5th year in marriage. It's quite, I haven't conceived yet. And then it's just that, and for me, it wasn't even more about the conception. It's also my experience with other women. A lot of women are in that place of, oh, I want to have a child, but this, I'm broken, or, that kind of thing. For me, it was more of the health related issues. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about the woman with the issue of blood, because I mean, I had an issue of blood, and I just thought that, you know what, this has been going on for a long time, and it has been something with so much shame. So I don't want to be silent anymore, and I want to start talking about it, because the moment I said, hi, I have PCOS, this is what I'm going through, so many women have reached out to me just with that. And a lot of women on my support group are speaking about infertility, are speaking about, oh, their husband, some of them even have issues with their marriages because their husband doesn't understand that it's a condition that is not their fault. So that's one of the reasons. It touches a nerve in our society. And that's why I was like, I'm going to speak about this and create a story that people can feel. Because I could have written like, a book about, I have PCOS and this is what you can do. But it's different when you write from a character's point of view. You get to feel what they feel and really understand, why this is important.
I did go to your Instagram page to take a look at some of the things you posted. And interestingly, I found out the name of the character is Ifunanya, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The little girl.
That happens to be my Igbo name. I was like, I'm definitely reading your book. I'm definitely reading your book.
All right, Seyi.
Thank you.
Before we let you go, this is obviously quite a sensitive issue. So as someone who's passed through PCOS and also infertility with other women, as you've shared their stories also in your book and with the character, what would you say to African women and African girls right now about this all?
Okay, so first thing is that they are not alone and there is nothing wrong with them. They are not broken. The moment you decide that you're not going to let some random disease take over your body it's your first day. For me, it took a night. I started a community called PCOS Conquerors, and it was just a night of me being really, really broken and sad. And I heard the word, I am more than a conqueror. And I realized that, you know what, PCOS women, yes, we might have to deal with certain things other women don't have to, but it makes us stronger for it. So I'll say if you're diagnosed or you hear anything, just know you're not alone. Reach out to a community. You can overcome. When you start making the small incremental steps, you will see changes in your body and you will overcome. There are women in my group that have conceived. There are women in my group. Someone just called me recently to say her body is actually, her insulin levels are back to normal because she had to decide that, okay, I'm going to take a step to change my life. So yes, you can. The power is in your hands.
Yes,
wow.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
Power is in your hands.
Thank you
Power
very much.
to you.
Seyi Amao, and author of Polycystic and PCOS Conqueror. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us right here on Breakfast Central.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. You know, while she was talking, I was reminded when I did see my first period as well, my mom did a dance. I didn't know anything was wrong. I didn't know, because I was in secondary school and I understand some girls see it while they're even in primary school. So she was excited. And when she was, I was like, Mom, why are you dancing? And then she begins, it was late. Your sister saw her on like 3 years ago and you were not ready, And then I went on to experience some of the things that she talked about at some point. And I went to the doctor. They gave me some, some things, hormonal balance. I don't know how to explain it now. When I was a teenager. So it is important, like she said, that people are empowered with information early enough so you can deal with these issues as they come. And
not to use shame as a weapon against young girls.
Nothing to be ashamed of. When she was talking about stigma, and I'm wondering, you don't own your body.
Right. Let's move on. This time we're going straight to sports on Breakfast Central. A couple of results for you from last night's UEFA Europa League action. If we can have them for you, the likes of Arsenal, they lost out 1-0 at home against Olympiacos, but they still qualify. Tottenham Hotspur have been knocked out. Yes, Jose Mourinho's team Well, Dinamo Zagreb beaten by 3-0, and AC Milan are out because Manchester United had a 1-0 victory over AC Milan. There was a goal from Paul Pogba returning from injury after a long layoff, so they are through to the next round of the UEFA Europa League. There'll be more on that much later when it comes to the world of sports because we'll have in our sports team who will be giving you all the information. And you want to hear from Jose Mourinho and his post-match comments about that, Europa League exit from the competition. All that and more at 10:30 when it comes to sports on In the Game.
All right, we'll go for some entertainment stories, but we'll take a short break. That will be right after. Stay with us.
Right then, welcome back to Breakfast Central. Don't forget to catch us right here on social media. Yes, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and log on to the website, newscentral.africa. Right then, we're going straight to the world of entertainment, and you know who is in the house. Yes, Samuel Ojo, a.k.a. Sam Dandy.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. Now, let me just take what's happening in the world of entertainment, of course. Now, it's not just great news, because, of course, Burna Boy and Wizkid brought the Grammy last week. And Ghana is, having a little controversy around that, saying which Ghanaian artists can qualify, but that's not what I'm giving you now. Right now, of course, still great time to be Nigerian because Emanuela from Mac Angel Entertainment, the comedian, the 10-year-old comedian and YouTube star, was announced as a winner of African Social Media Star Awards at the Nickelodeon Awards this week. Now, it's incredible because she went against South Africa's media personality Bonang, my personal favorite, Elsa Majimbo from Kenya, of course, Ikorodu Boys from Nigeria. We had 2 slots there to win. And, of course, Ghetto Boys, who are amazing dancers from Uganda. And it's just great to see, Emanuela Young 10 doing great things, to be honest. In my mind, I'm like the power of social media and digitization. I can't overemphasize what that means to us. While I said that Ghana, is going back and forth, a lot of artists, Stonebwoy, Shatta Wale, are all up on it, talking about why, well, maybe some of them might deserve it. After all, Shatta was, of course, on Beyonce's album as well, the same one Wizkid was on, and Wizkid won for Best Video. Now Ghana is going back and forth about, is there an artist who deserves this, from Ghana? Well, in some form, Stonebwoy, in other news, Stonebwoy from Ghana has a new song with Sean Paul. Now, it's good because, I feel like this is still part of, being accepted, inclusivity, in some form. It does raise awareness, He might not have gotten the Grammy, but then, he keeps on putting out good work. And this one he's the only African to be featured on Sean Paul's new album, just to show that, reggae and that dancehall vibe is still alive. So it's just interesting to see this. So while none of them got a Grammy, well, we still celebrate them. And I think the Grammy win, or I definitely say the Grammy win is for Africa and not just, for Nigeria.
All right. So this is one I'll be looking to perhaps bump my head to this weekend. Stonebwoy and Shana Paul.
Shana Paul. Gotta get it down. Gotta get.
All right. That's it, Sam Danny. You still got more?
Well, honestly, I did have a package for, about the Grammys, because what most people don't know is Burna Boy is not the first Nigerian to have won a Grammy, but he's the first Nigerian to have won, for original body of work, though.
I'll be looking forward to that much later on E Central right here on News Central. So thank you very much, Samuel Ojo, a.k.a. Sam Danny, giving us the latest from the world of entertainment. Wow.
It's always not a good feeling to say bye, but sometimes it's okay, especially when it's a Friday.
Yeah, so much to do. I want to go and dance to Sam Dandy, Sean Paul.
Friday, I want to go dance right now.
All right, that's our package. Big ups to everyone, cast and crew, directors, and our producers, Lizzie and Mike. You guys are the best. Felicity, have had a good week once again. We'll see you again next week from Monday, 8 a.m. West African time. There'll be so much more to cook up on the African continent. Until then, have yourselves a great weekend.
Bye.